Is Spider-Man 2 your favorite?
Spider-Man movie?
Yeah.
I think Spider-Man 1 might be my favorite.
Okay.
I know everybody say Spider-Man 2 is the best of them.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, this is in my top 3 then, probably.
Yeah, 3, yeah.
Or, maybe, it's top 5. Because Into the Spider-Verse is up there.
I was about to say, I think for me, top 3 would probably be Homecoming, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Verse, really. And then I'd put this after Spider-Verse, I really would. Spider-Man, in terms of it being a better movie, for the nostalgia factor, is probably number 1, honestly, because it's the one that set it off. It's a solid movie. But in actuality, like, it's not better than the 3 movies I just named. Like, just overall, it's just not.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Cinecism. I'm Eric.
It's your boy Dante, man, and today we're going to be doing a review on Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming.
Yes, indeed.
You know how life be. This installment of Spider-Man, of course, immediately follows the events of the last film. The villain Mysterio reveals Spider-Man's true identity to the world. His life immediately just gets turned upside down. It has a pretty big impact on his friends and family and loved ones. Him and his friends, MJ and Ned, they all really wanted to get into MIT together. And because they are directly connected to Peter, they also get denied admission into MIT. So after all of these events unfold, Peter has the idea to go see his buddy, Dr. Strange, to undo the reveal of his secret identity to the world, as to hopefully reverse the effects it's had on his friends, and they can continue living life as normal. In the midst of him trying to have this spell done, he keeps interrupting Dr. Strange, as we saw in the trailers, and he ends up just ruining the entire spell, and shit starts coming through portals and people from different universes. It just turns into a whole fiasco.
Yeah, this is probably the most, I would say easily the most emotional Spider-Man movie that we've probably gotten in a while. Spider-Man 2 is up there as well, but this is probably, this is in the same category as that in terms of the stakes that are involved and the seriousness of some of the aftermath of the events and what have you. This movie started off pretty lighthearted. Even with everything that's going on and him being kind of so on the run, probably like mid or halfway through the movie, and then it starts to get increasingly more serious and things start getting more out of control. Of course, if you've seen the film, you know that these are other villains from the other Spider-Man movies that we got in the previous other universes. The funny thing is that they originally want to send them back, but then it turns into this whole mission of trying to save them. I thought that was kind of interesting. Peter finds out that when they go back, all of these villains end up dying. And he didn't want that fate for them. So, you know, instead of that, they try to heal what's wrong with them. I thought that was a very interesting approach. I got thoughts on that, and we'll talk more about that a bit later. But you know, that was
it was a very Spider-Man thing to do. I won't deny that, but there was some logical flaws.
Yeah, many.
We'll talk about
many of them, but we'll get to that. Peter?
Yeah, let's talk about Peter. Peter's been through a lot of shit at such a young age, man. Compared to like his comic book or animated counterpart, it's like a lot of the things that he experiences happen earlier on in his career, as opposed to like where it usually comes like later once he's more experienced. So he's been exposed to a lot of crazy shit to be such a young hero. You know what I mean? This is a much more somehow seasoned Peter Parker, but at the same time he still is young and naive. Tom Holland, man, like you mentioned, he hit some like pretty strong emotional notes in here. I really enjoyed that. And like you said, I think this is probably one of the more heartfelt Spider-Man films since Spider-Man 2 and like even the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's grown a lot, but at the same time, I still like the fact that he maintains that pure of heart mentality. He's not jaded. And talking to Dr. Strange about this, when he tried to tell it to him, he was like, man, and that's one of the bright sides of youth. Like sometimes you haven't experienced enough life yet to really be bogged down by it. But Dr. Strange pretty much like, look, dog, you can count that as an L. Like they out of here. They supposed to die. It is what it is. And, he really takes on this noble stance of like, nah, man, everybody can be saved. And, it has repercussions, of course, as does everything he does in this movie has has consequences, which I kind of respected. They didn't just let a lot of stuff ride. Like these choices that he made, you know, whether or not he thought they were positive at the time, he had to deal with the aftermath of those choices in this movie, and some of them had a pretty great cost, which we'll get to.
The swing scene and the new suit, which I could barely see.
Yeah.
I guess we just gonna have to see that in the next movie.
Yeah.
It looked like a very classic, iconic Spider-Man suit, much brighter than any of the suits we've seen.
Absolutely.
In the other movies. It's just the CG, man. That's the only thing that's the biggest thing I'm not a fan of with the Tom Holland Spider-Man suit. It looks cool, but it don't feel real like most of the time. Yeah. Like Toby and Andrew's suits felt. I do hope they keep the eyes, because I feel like that was one of the best integrations they've had, like in the Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
Because it's like straight out of comics.
Let's get to the villains first, because that's who appears first. These villains pop up and they're not really sure where they are or what's going on, and you know, they all familiar with Peter and they know Spider-Man. They all looking for him, because I think where they take him from, they're kind of in the middle of fighting him, is what I took away from it.
First of all, let me just talk about my favorite, because he's just the OG, like Green Goblin.
Of course.
Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe. He was such a maniac in this movie, and I loved every minute of it. He's like one of the reasons I love the original Spider-Man movie to begin with, because how committed he was to the role and just the insanity in his face.
Yes, his face.
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh my God, especially when he would punch him in the face and he was just smiling at that.
You know what I will say about these villains? In my personal opinion, for nostalgia reasons and for fan service, of course, it was great seeing all of them. For the movie purposes, Doc Ock and Green Goblin, that would have probably been it. Everybody else, they didn't give enough dialogue. They tried to give Jamie Foxx some dialogue, which I had a problem with his Electro, because that was a completely different man.
They kind of just glossed over that, huh?
I mean, he wasn't the same personality-wise. He didn't look the same. It was like nothing. In the terms of these Spider-Man movies, if you've been keeping up, those were probably the two best villains that they've had, period, if I'm going to be really honest.
Oh, yeah.
I loved the first Amazing Spider-Man. I thought it was dope. The Lizard himself was kind of a weak villain, so, you know, they didn't really give him any lines here, but those were the two villains that you probably wanted to see. Everybody else was there just so it made sense that when Andrew Garfield came. For me, outside of the fact of just seeing them, it didn't really impact the movie any.
Of course, if you've seen the movie, you also saw the reintroduction of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which, I mean, people have been...
Poor Andrew Garfield. Like, I know he was so happy when this movie came out, so because they was on his head. And we all knew he was lying. He kept denying it.
Nobody was pressing Toby, though. Yeah. They just couldn't find him or something. So, man, it was really good to see both of them, especially Andrew, because I felt like he got such a bad rap. Because his second Spider-Man movie was so fucking trash.
That's the worst one, in my opinion.
It is. It's definitely by far worse than Spider-Man 3.
Absolutely. To me, this was the equivalent of everybody showing up in Infinity War. Not on that scale, but this is what you came to see. The villains, it was cool to see them, but seeing all the Spider-Mans and not only seeing them, but them getting that time to actually talk and interact and actually build some type of a bond, to me was so well written, because Tobey Maguire being technically the oldest one felt that way, man. He felt like the OG, like the bigger brother. You know, Andrew Garfield kind of felt more like the middle child, and you know, Peter was the younger one, of course, but the way they interacted was just so dope, man, because they all been through something.
I honestly thought they were gonna like make cameos like at the end of the movie, but they actually were in this movie for like a good amount of time.
The third act,
acting with each other.
Yeah, the third act of the movie is just that.
Yeah, and that's probably what I enjoyed the most.
Yes,
man, because I was always so curious to see. It was so natural, like it was like they had been working together, you know, already for years.
It's always good to see people willing to come back to a franchise, because I know how sometimes that can be, especially, I mean, Andrew Garfield really, but Tobey Maguire too, both have gone on to other stuff, you know, and they kind of graduated from these characters, but it's like almost like coming back to your high school. If you was a star football player or something, like you still willing to show up for the new team, and I think that's always dope.
And I love how highly Andrew speaks of both of them, man.
Yeah.
Like the humility he displays all the time. Like he just seemed like such a solid dude.
Yeah. His portrayal in that first Amazing Spider-Man movie might be the closest that we've gotten to a comic book Spider-Man, like interacting and cracking jokes while fighting. Quippy. Yes, absolutely. In terms of having a movie of it, I think that's the best portrayal of Spider-Man, the one that I'm used to in a film. So Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man definitely don't get the recognition I think it deserves. You know, people shout out Tobey for being the first. Of course, Tom Holland, people consider him probably the best one. And then Andrew kind of get left in the dark. But I think he did a great job too.
It all boils down to like the script and material that he was given to me, because I always thought he was dope as Spider-Man. Like, I never disliked him. I just thought that the writing was just trash.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, had he been given a better script, I feel like he would have unanimously been probably the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, you forget how much they've been through too, man, because all of them have lost somebody significant, and you know, two of them lost all of them lost Uncle Ben, so they at least share that.
You know what, man? There's been a theory. People have been saying that maybe Uncle Ben doesn't exist in Tom Holland's universe. Have you ever heard them mention Uncle Ben?
Oh, like Aunt May was just single?
Yeah.
Oh, that could be dope. No, they never did.
And I always wondered why.
Of course, with Homecoming, we didn't get an origin story. They just start him off. He's always mentioned getting bit by the spider. Yeah. I've never heard him mention Uncle Ben now that you mentioned that. Oh, that's actually...
Aunt May I guess she served as the Uncle Ben in his universe, especially with the delivery of that great power, great responsibility.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I think we mentally filled in those blanks.
Right.
Because obviously we know the character and that's the story. But yeah, you're right. They've never said that. And really the way that they act, it don't seem like they suffered a loss like that. I mean, the way Aunt May is, at least she kind of just be fun loving. And I've never even seen them have moments where it looked like they were mourning a loved one. So I'm curious, now that you mentioned that, I wonder what the story is regarding his parents in this universe. Like, why is he staying with Aunt May now?
Peter parents be always on some shit.
Like, they actually ain't worth a damn. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like, sometimes they be like scientists.
Yeah.
Sometimes they be like some kind of spy.
Like, explorers or something. Yeah, they always, it's always they ain't raising their son. That's what we know. They ain't taking responsibility for that child they made. They ain't dead. That's the only reason you should be with your aunt for that long. So
people have been saying like this whole trilogy was like his origin story. Which I can see that now. Which I thought, because you know, me and you used to complain all the time about how he just felt like he was in Tony Stark's shadow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way too reliant on the tech. But now it's like he's getting a fresh start.
Yeah.
He don't have anybody to lean on, depend on anymore, because nobody knows his identity.
Yep.
And I think this is gonna, if they do it right, man, and I'm hoping, I don't know how involved Sony and Marvel are, like with the future of Spider-Man. But I'm hoping now that they have this foundation, we're going to get some solid Spider-Man movies following. And going back to the whole villain thing with them, or Peter trying to save them to send them back to, you know, the time before they died. How does that work?
So this is the thing, right? When it comes to that whole aspect of saving the villains, in theory, I respect the idea of it, and I know why they chose to do it. It's very in line with this Spider-Man in particular. I would say Spider-Man overall, but especially this one with him being so green. The problem I had with it is this. They make this serum that's supposed to be like the end-all be-all for what's wrong with these people. So just to be clear, what most of these villains are probably suffering from is probably some form of like a mental health issue. I think it's safe to say that. They make it sound like that these catastrophic events cause these people to like lose their mind or something. It's like these events exacerbate issues that are already there. It's not like these people don't have something kind of off with them initially.
Sandman knew what he was doing.
Yes. I was about to say, there's nothing wrong with Sandman. Yeah. He just like out here. The only people that I think you could probably technically heal would be Doc Ock and Lizard, really.
I mean, Norman too.
Ain't that a mental thing, though?
No, but he didn't get like that until he was exposed to the that serum.
I thought something was off with him beforehand.
No.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah. You're right. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, really. I mean, that it would be this end-all cure situation for all of these villains and things like that.
I just know they cooked up them serums real quick.
Dog. Listen, bro. In a bootleg lab, too. This ain't even state-of-the-art. He was just in a room. It looked like a game room or something. I found myself having a more of an issue with the first part of this movie. I felt like this movie took a while to actually get going. I don't know what's going on with the writing, and this is a personal thing. I don't know who else might feel this way, but I kind of felt that same way with Far From Home, where I felt like the writing just kind of took a dip. And in this one, I felt the same way, man. It's just like these characters.
Like a pacing issue for you?
It's a pacing issue. It's a dialogue issue. You know, they kind of leaning too heavily into these quips. They letting those go on far too long. I know it's it's hard to say this because the movie got a lot to offer, but I found a hard time getting invested for a while, man. It just felt very out of place and out of order with some of the stuff that was going on. And then I didn't like some of the choices they made, but I know why they made them. Obviously, you know, they put Doctor Strange in here. It would make more sense that Doctor Strange and Peter would team up. You know, they teamed them up with Ned and Zendaya to stop the end of the world, which is, I mean, makes no sense to get Ned and MJ to help you. But of course, they need screen time. Yeah, these are kids. Like, dude, these are higher stakes than maybe even Infinity War. I mean, we talking about elements of time and space here. We should probably get the time and space wizard to do something about that. The way that they did Peter with that whole shit with Doctor Strange, I actually was visibly upset. I kept getting mad.
You talking about when he was in the mirror dimension?
Listen to me, man. Before that and then that. But before, when he did that spirit punch and Peter somehow was able to get out of that, I'm like, dude, I was actually in the movie theater mad because it's a million ways you could have did that and it could have just made better sense. Yeah. Dude, Peter Parker can't do that. Okay, the Hulk can't even do that. Only person I would accept it from is probably Professor X, Jean Grey, Scarlet Witch. It would make a lot of sense for those characters because they have strong mental capacities. A character like Peter can't do that, and then they didn't make it make any sense of why he could. He just could because it's the plot. And then he got out of the mirror dimension because of geometry or something. Dude, Peter Parker can't beat Doctor Strange. And this version of Peter Parker can definitely not beat Doctor Strange in no way, shape, or form. That's a world he created. He can't. Only somebody of his caliber can actually manipulate that world. Like I say, I'll take it from Scarlet Witch or somebody else that has like those type of powers, but Peter Parker absolutely not.
Let's talk about Matt Murdock's cameo.
Let's do it, man. That was awesome.
I heard rumors of that. Man, look, I've heard way too many.
You told me all of this.
We live in the age of.
I hate it.
It's just too much information.
There's no more surprises, man.
Oh my God. It's like I'll just be scrolling on YouTube, a whole fucking picture from the movie just be there.
Right.
Just people that haven't even been announced officially yet. Right. Like, come on, bro. Why am I doing this?
Yeah, right.
What do you gain from this?
It don't help the fans. I mean, dude, it takes away something from the experience. But with that being said, it was still great to see him.
It was, man. Even though his little appearance was very brief, just seeing him in this world, man, officially was dope because he did such an incredible job in the Daredevil series. Like, I don't know a single person that didn't like that series. I mean, it's one of the best superhero shows ever made.
Bro, it's extremely underrated. To me, it might be the best Marvel show that they've made aside from Scarlet Witch. And I think that character deserves to be in the MCU, man.
Everybody has been petitioning for him.
He needs to be.
Not be recast.
What I'm thinking is that either one or two things is going to happen. Either they might be rebooting the Daredevil series because we got Wilson Fisk and Hawkeye. We got Matt Murdock in this. They might be doing that, or what I really think is going to happen, my true theory is that because they love a team up with this Spider-Man, he can't be standalone. I'm thinking in the next Spider-Man movie, it's going to be him and Matt Murdock.
You know, I'm really glad to see him in this universe because we get to explore some more of his, I guess, superhuman abilities.
Yeah.
You know, so that's going to be cool to see. That was a much more grounded show.
Yeah.
I know he exhibited like abilities to some extent, but it's not going to be on the level that we've seen in the MCU.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
Do you want to talk about the trailer or Venom scene?
The Venom one is a hell no for me. That I couldn't even believe, bro. I wasn't even mad that they integrated it into the movie. I was just mad that I waited for it.
The way that they did it, it gives way for a clean slate with Venom because you're seeing a piece of the symbiote stuck in this universe. Mm-hmm. So now we could potentially get another version of Eddie Brock. Yep. Going to be in Tom Holland's universe. So I think that aspect of it is cool.
Now that you say that, that might have been the purpose that it served. Because I honestly sat there and was like, what the fuck was the point of that?
Yeah. I think it was just to give hints of the symbiote being in like the MCU universe.
I like that. Yeah. I like that idea, and that makes sense to me. So, okay, I'm rolling.
I'm curious to see how.
I was upset before you said that, but now I feel a lot better about this shit. I guess my final thing to really say about the movie is that the overall plot I had an issue with. The reasoning for this was just stupid. He didn't get into college. That's unfortunate. I don't know if it's a a reason to bend time and space, though. Like, I understand that people's lives was affected, but ultimately what ended up happening, it just felt like it didn't mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. So Peter goes out to seek Doctor Strange to change everything that happened, right? So as people can get people can get into college. First of all, Doctor Strange is an adult, so he shouldn't have never even agreed to this bullshit. I blame him too. Like, it ain't just 100%. Peter. Peter's a child, so of course he would say something like this. Doctor Strange refuted it, but then he was like, all right, I've been time and space, nigga. So Peter goes to see Doctor Strange for that, so MJ and Ned can get into college. Then he changes the spell so they don't forget him, right? He wanted Aunt May to remember him. Aunt May dies, so she out of here. Ned and MJ still don't remember him. So they got into college, but it's just like, nigga, what? You went through all of this and you lost so much, and it just was like, dude, I wish that, and this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of the writing, you could have made a much better story. Like, if they would have had something happen to maybe Aunt May in the beginning of the movie, or Happy or something, the stakes would have been a lot higher for me in order for you to make that type of choice. Yeah. For something so trivial, it's like, dude, to get into college, all you got to really do, you could negotiate that with a person, really. But to bend the fabric of time for something so minor just didn't, I hated that. I hated that about this movie because it was an easy fix. It's a lot of high stakes stuff going on, bro. You could have made it anything, just not that. Not something like that. So
he's indirectly responsible for
he killed her. I didn't like it from the moment the movie started. I was like, this is the reason why they doing this? This is so dumb. Just why would you risk something like that for something so small? Now, if he wanted to save somebody's life, or if he wanted to repair some major damage he'd done, maybe even bring back Mysterio. I thought that would have been better. Like, maybe make it so that Mysterio never died or something. I would have took that instead of, because that's really what set all of this into motion. And then also, I'm not trying to be funny, but when Aunt May died, I kind of felt nothing. I think they should have either killed MJ or Ned. Like, that would have had a lot more weight to it. Aunt May dying, like, she's been more of a Happy in these movies. Like, we don't really know her. We haven't gotten to know her at all, really. You know, she kind of appears and then she's not there. She's really there as like the eye candy, honestly. Like, 9 times out of 10 when she's on screen, they talking about how fine she is. It's some relationship debacle. And she has a few moments with Peter, but they haven't really established their relationship in these movies. Yeah. So her character dying, I just was like, okay, all right. Even if you would have killed Happy, like, that would have meant more to me. When that death scene, I was just like, why did they kill her though? It just,
well, they gotta kill somebody.
But kill somebody that matters. That's my whole thing is this: if you're gonna kill somebody in these movies, kill somebody that's gonna make a difference. Like, with it, I mean, I know it matters to him, but I'm talking about in terms of the viewer. I didn't feel much with Aunt May. I'm like, okay, she was barely in these movies to begin with, so damn, Aunt May.
Even up walking around after that glider came at her like that, I was like, oh, okay. But she hurt though, right?
Bro, they tried to play that shit off like it was minor. I'm like, dog, that ain't the type of wound that's gonna seep in. She would have got up and it would have been a stomach missing. Yeah, dude, did I? Boy, did I?
So overall, Spider-Man No Way Home. Honestly, I got to see pretty much everything I wanted to see. Interaction with the different Spider-Men from the different universes was great. I loved all of their chemistry. Had some issues with some of the plot elements and, you know, villain motivations, but yeah, it wasn't enough to take me out of the film, even though some of the shit just ain't make sense. But this was more of a fan service film than anything else to me, and I enjoyed it purely from that aspect. And I really enjoyed probably one of the standout performances for me two was Andrew Garfield and Willem Dafoe. Overall, I think I'm gonna give Spider-Man No Way Home a 8 out of 10.
I enjoyed this movie, so let me be very clear when I say that. It would be hard not to be a fan of these movies for as long as I have been, to be on this ride for as long as I have been. This movie delivered on every nostalgia inclination you can have, right? So it got me there. The fan service was there. I bought into it. They got me hook, line, and sinker. My issue was probably more the plot, but as we know, they gotta make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? So I get that. I suspend disbelief in certain aspects, but I just felt like they took certain shortcuts with this writing that they just didn't have to take, man. it felt like the dumber of a much easier choice to make for some of this stuff. Mainly the reasoning for the whole thing about that. I just could not, it was bothering me, I'm not gonna lie, for something like this. That's minor, honestly, in the overall grand scheme of things. It's a fun movie, it's enjoyable as hell. The additional Spider-Mans, that was worth the price of the admission for me. Not even the villain part, I mean, that was cool to see for me, but the Spider-Mans, them interacting with one another, man, just the melding of all those worlds, that was worth the ticket for me, and that's easily worth the price of admission. If you a Spider-Man fan, if you a Spider-Man movie fan, if you just an MCU fan, it's worth it. So for me, I'm gonna give this an 8 as well. I had some gripes, but it's a solid movie. It's up there for one of the best ones.
Thank y'all for tuning in to our review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Hope y'all enjoyed that. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any suggested reviews that you'd like to see us do on our channel, don't forget to drop a comment below.
Absolutely. And if you guys have seen Spider-Man No Way Home, please let us know what you thought. How do you feel about this movie in its entirety? How do you feel about the introduction of the new Spider-Mans? Do you feel like the villains, take them or leave them? Who were some of your favorites, favorite moments? We like to know all of that. We appreciate y'all, man.
Thank y'all.
Peace.